Hello there, JerganJaze. Today we are getting into, I started to turn this to this way so you could see, but I know the first drawing is going to be this way, but this is, so how last one was, the last sketchbook we looked through, it was the first sketchbook I'd ever finished. This one is the first sketchbook I ever drew in. So this has, I think the first few drawings in it are from when I was 7, but I didn't finish it until a year after, I think, the last one that we did. So that would have been when I was 17. So without further ado, we're just going to get into it. We're going to talk through stuff like I did last time. So yeah, no concept of form or anything yet. Yeah, I would have been 7, about to turn 8 at this point, as you can see by the date down here, and I tore off a piece of this for what reason I don't know. I had gotten a set of actual drawing pencils alongside of this. My dad had done drawing before, so he explained to me what each of these meant and how it gets softer and therefore gets to be darker when you hit 9B, 6B, all those higher B numbers. But I did luckily, he gave me Drawing Comics the Marvel Way with Stan Lee. It was actually his copy of it, so we still have it. It's a very old copy. And in it talks about 2-point perspective and all this stuff. So I tried, I think, a few times to make just very basic buildings that obviously didn't look good, but at least I'm trying to build up an idea of perspective, even though I was just 8 years old, which is something you don't really see someone that young really trying to do that often. Like I said, luckily my dad had drawn some before, so when I said I was interested in learning, he was able to show me a few things. I don't even know why I initially got this sketchbook, if I asked for it, if it was just something that was kind of just given to me and I was expected to learn how to draw or what. But I had I had an interest in drawing, obviously, since I'm drawing here. I just didn't love doing it like I do now. This is my lines are so bad here. No fluidity, just like one take at it. That was it. And I know this page was supposed to be 4 still lives. These were, I think, dog toys we had at the time. I think we had I remember now. I had gotten this sketchbook and started drawing in it the same night that we had gotten a new dog, our dog Max, which he's dead now, but he lived to be 11 years old, 12, something like that. So we had him for a really long time, but this sketchbook was, started drawing in it the same night we got him. This was supposed to be more still lives. I think I already said that though. Each of those. Yeah, you can see me trying to do it. You can see that with this, I didn't understand with 2-point perspective that it had to be the same 2 points for each thing. So I made for this building a completely different 2 points to go to, when instead I should have been drawing off to this one or that one, and not really, this face wouldn't have really shown. I don't know. I would have done this obviously very differently from when I was 8. Same with a lot of this stuff. Then we have Jedi Fighter. I don't remember the technical term for these. I feel stupid because I have read Star Wars books and stuff and don't remember the technical term for one of these, but that was the idea. I think I had a Lego set and I was just looking at it face down, because a lot of these were me trying to draw from life, minus like the buildings, but this was, like I said, dog toys that I was drawing from life from. Apparently, not a blank page. I just decided to draw on the other side. I was just stacking form on top of each other. It didn't look pretty at all. I felt the need sometimes to title, and I even did that in my last sketchbook. I don't know if you guys remember some of the characters. It was like silly girl, excited boy, demon boy, stuff like that. I decided to name them. I didn't know that I could. I probably would have enjoyed myself so much more if I had done characters, but I was doing still lives and all this stuff because I thought that that's what a good artist was. I mean, I've done good still lives since, and I do enjoy it to its own degree. It has to be stuff I'm interested in, though, and it has to be a composition that I set up for myself. I can show paintings and stuff of that at some point, I'm sure. Trying to draw space. So between here, this was not a whole year later, but these were early September 2008. Wasn't quite 8 yet. I would have been 8 at this point. I don't know. My dad had the idea of me dating everything that I did. So quite some time has passed because I got discouraged really easily if I didn't see progress or whatever. Then a whole year between these 2 points passed. Now this sketchbook, for whatever reason, I was drawing outside of it, and I don't have sketchbooks with that stuff. It's probably mostly notebook and construction paper, but I thought this had to be like my good stuff, so I rarely drew in here for the longest time until I decided it's a sketchbook, I'm filling it up the rest of the way. And that was when I was like 16 or 17 years old that I finally decided, I just need to use it. Then I had this how to draw monsters book at the time, like a step-by-step guide. So these were some of them. I have a ton of these that are on. It was more of a sketch pad. I mean, it's not really too much of a difference, but I had the tear out paper on it, and I have a ton of those. These were the actual names that the how to draw book said it was. So that's why those got names. But I found it very important to have names. This was at a time when I wanted to. I was doing a Facebook drawing page, or uploading on a friend of mine's Facebook drawing page, and this was a comic series that I had proposed to him. He didn't like the idea, and it's obviously not well drawn or anything like that. But I remember like dying laughing at this. Distractions Are a Beautiful Thing was the name of the series. Butterfly? Help me, my leg is broke. I'm even chuckling at this now. There, and I'm just staring off. I could have sworn that I heard something. Yeah. My sense of humor, I swear, has gotten better since then, but I find myself laughing at that now. This would have been, I think, when I was 12. So again, a couple of years have passed. A couple more years have passed into this one, because this is now 2014. This is when I started signing stuff with a symbol. This isn't the symbol I use now. This is actually how my dad used to sign his stuff, but me and my dad have the same initials. So I used it. But there's an improvement for sure. Not, again, I wasn't taking this seriously or anything at all. It was just a very, very casual hobby I would occasionally draw, and I would doodle in class and stuff like that. Again, this is, I think, one of the first characters I ever tried really doing, minus that comic. And I had some characters and stuff I was doing on that Facebook drawing page, and I have those saved as well, but they were caricatures of celebrities. But this is, I was gunning for very like stereotypical anime dude, and it kind of is. Still not great, anatomy or anything. I don't know what this hair is supposed to be. At least I have some shading and sense of light coming from one direction versus the other. Anime girl that I never finished. I just wanted to draw a sad anime girl waving off. Like, I don't know, maybe a lover or a friend or something. Didn't even try drawing the hand. I don't know if you can make out the erase marks in the video, but erase marks here. A lot of erase marks, honestly, in general, and I probably just gave up. Again, I got like really discouraged with this stuff and anything that I wasn't good at. So this, after this, I know what the next drawing is. I had started taking art classes in high school, and then that's when I could get into my next sketchbooks that I had, because I bought new sketchbooks just for that class. Because again, for whatever reason, it was stuck in my head that this was some special sanctuary place, even though it's just a sketchbook. If I make something cool. If it looks like crap, it does. That's the way I treat it now. So I've taken some, a couple of drawing classes, I think, at this point, or art classes in general. So now I have a better idea of form to a degree, of shading. So this wasn't based off of any image. This was actually something that I came up with. I love dragons. I love drawing dragons still. That's why a lot of my emotes on Twitch are dragon themed, and my Discord and all. Be sure to check those out, by the way. Even Discord, it's free to use the same exact emotes that are on Twitch, but Twitch, it's the whole sub thing. But I was 16 at this point now, and this is now the symbol that I sign with today. This broken star, as I call it. I want to get a tattoo of this at some point, but significant difference. Still, I don't have a good sense of highlights yet. Granted, this is an older drawing, so it has gotten smeared up against stuff, and I probably didn't have a paper towel laying down, or didn't work from one side of the page to the other, so a lot of smearing and stuff going on. Significant improvement, though. This was immediately trying to go after the fact. I think I hadn't fully watched Dragon Ball up until recently. Well, not even watched it, but read it until recently. But I think this was relatively Dragon Ball inspired, because I knew what it was, but I just didn't, I don't know, participate. Is that the right word? So then we get into me starting. I think this definitely wasn't me. This was definitely following somebody else. This was either an online tutorial, or this was me starting to get into art books, because a lot of this then becomes me getting into art books, studying and copying that, learning some more anatomy stuff. So just different anime eye styles that I was learning. I think this one was online, but take a lot of notes. I still do that, and I highly suggest that other people take notes in their sketchbooks too. It's not supposed to be a perfect place. It is supposed to be very playful, and it's where you figure things out. It's not your final pieces or anything like that. Generally, granted, I've had some sketches that I scan, and like I'm currently working on something that was initially a sketch, and now I'm making it into a full-on piece on my computer. But, you know, that's besides the point. And then this we have, I think this was from something online that I was doing, or maybe this was stuff that I wanted to work on more and decided to. And I was really bad about not filling up my pages. Granted, I still have pages like that sometimes, but especially because I thought it all had to be the same or on the same day or something like that. So I unfortunately wind up wasting a lot of paper. So still 16, so you can see that my frequency of drawing is at least a bit more, at least in this sketchbook. I was still drawing for classes, I believe, but that was in separate sketchbooks that they had me use for it. But this is Yugi Moto, obviously. You know, decent Yugi. I was watching Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time, and this was just a screenshot and just copied it. Again, I was very good at copying stuff, like I said in last sketchbook tour video, but I couldn't make up my own hardly. Although that changed with that dragon a bit. This was a photo my mom had took of an elk when we were traveling, and I had fully intended of making it a really cool, hyper-realistic looking thing. Obviously never did, never finished. This was just playing with some new material, I think. Yeah, this was me sketching out for a bigger project that I wanted to do. I don't think I ever finished the big project. This is finished for the sketch. Again, I felt the need to label everything, but vegetation below, because I couldn't make out what my scribbles were, and I was afraid that I would forget. You're about to see some really horrible me trying to draw abs and muscles and things, but at least those are some pretty cool scales that I did with some the newer drawing material I'd gotten that I had tried out a couple pages ago, but still very lacking knowledge of anatomy. And I believe this was on a trip. It seems like most of my art frustrations come when I go on a trip, because I bring a sketchbook and I'm like, I'm gonna draw so much, it's gonna be so cool, we're gonna make so many cool things, and then I wind up getting frustrated and trying to figure everything out. So yeah, no sense of abs or the hair and everything. Oh wow. This one I know is also a study of Hulk, and looking at my lines compared to what they are now, I was just so stiff, or like I would go over the same exact thing over and over again, and I didn't have a lot of construction that I was building up from, or a lot of shape and form that I was building up from. Let's see. Yeah, but at least I'm getting into anatomy. I finally figured out it's actually important to study anatomy, apparently, but deciding that I'm gonna start studying skeletal structure, muscles, the stuff I should have probably been doing all along. I learned about what anatomy tracing was, just some basic anatomy vocabulary, so you can kind of figure out where things are. Different concepts of joints. And how those joints can work into, like, say, a heel, and then starting to learn about the spine and the curve of it, and how you have 3 main body masses. Pretty simple anatomy stuff that I just hadn't taken the time to learn, or no one had really taught me, because my drawing classes were very basic and more focusing on like perspective, line, shape. They weren't looking into studying something specific, but I started doing that on my own, and I recommend everybody, if you feel like you're having a weak point, just look it up and you can figure it out. I promise. I did. It's frustrating and confusing and a lot at first, but you just got to keep on doing it. I drew eyes everywhere. Just looking back, they're not even necessarily good eyes. And I know I was doing, at the time, my dad still has this hanging up at his work, I believe. I was about to do a drawing of pine cone and sticks and stuff, which sounds boring, but it was actually really fun because I figured out a lot to do with texture for it. These were some new, the Copic multiliner pens. For some reason, I thought I got these shortly after the Sakura ones. Maybe I did. Granted, keep in mind the other sketchbook was still kind of going on, like at the same point as this. Oh, just a blank page. And you can now that I've practiced anatomy, and I know I've done some off the sketchbook and done it elsewhere, and I think this was at the point that I'd already developed my style, quote unquote, and kind of just forced my way through it, even though that's not how that works. But the better idea of like a mass at the back of the skull, a little bit, even though this should have a little more probably, an idea of what a skull is, getting into trying to do posing. This was supposed to be Natsu. I had just gotten frustrated with this drawing of him, and literally on the next page, which I tore out because I gave it to a friend who I was drawing this for at the time. It was actually someone I was dating, but gave it to her. Again, you can still see improvement, although it's not fabulous or anything as far as like my freehanding goes. Like this laying down pose has no structure. The hips are just apparently just like squished in or something, and I didn't know how this worked. And you got to go back and study anatomy sometimes and relearn it so you can get it right, which you can see me doing. Looking at different joints between major bodies, how you can kind of sketch those out. This was actually from a art book that I still have, an older anime art book. I don't remember who the author was off the top of my head, but he was teaching you, putting body into perspective and using form to build it up. Stuff that's really helpful. So just copying different poses that were in the book. I also copy the style too. I think so. These scribbles aren't me. This is my brother was very young at the time and would get a hold of my stuff and just scribble in it. Again, from the same book. You can definitely tell that I was pulling from the style. And the thing that I do now is I try to, when I look at other people's art, I try to pull from, or study it, copy it, whatever. I try to replicate the styling of it, because it then teaches me how I can do that in the future, or add parts of it that I like to my own. Just a bunch of copies of heads and facial expressions from the same artist. And then this is a different art book. I remember this is Mark Crilly. He did a lot of YouTube videos and stuff as well that I used to watch. And he's a really good teacher. I won't say he's the best artist because his stuff looks relatively plain, but I think he keeps it plain just for the names, or for the sake of teaching. Because having something super complicated to look at doesn't benefit a beginner. I mean, it can benefit a beginner, but you wind up just getting frustrated because you're thinking, why can't I make that? But I can make, something that's rather simplistic looking and basic and go from there. I'm sure he does tons more and has done stuff before, but I'm just really familiar with his tutorials on YouTube and his art books. I have a few of his art books that I went through and learned from, and you can see I would take notes on different types of hairs, and again, very good at just copying and following tutorials. But again, this was just teaching me, gave me practice with line art, gave me some different perspective. Definitely, I learned a lot of hair stuff from him and making it look a lot better. Even though I was copying this stuff, I did learn a lot from it. You learn a lot from copying. It's not a bad thing to do. It's bad when you say that you did it. So then we have some different male hairstyles I wrote down, replicating them. Again, this was an anime focused book, so obviously very anime style. But I was getting, you can tell I'm getting the hang of line a lot better. I'm being a little bit looser with my lines. And again, they're copies, but I had fun with drawing them. Yeah, I know this was a Mark Crilly. I think that was. It was on a YouTube video though, not one of the books that I was going through. The rest of this is from books. Less is more, adding lines for detail ages the face. That is very true. Most of the time, yes. So then this was after I had gone through a lot of that book and read through it and all. And this was me coming back to the character that you saw me drawing in the last book that I had. Again, this was probably around the same time, if not right after the fact. Yoruden. I think, yeah, that's in frame. Yoruden. So I came back to the same character and then just kind of remade him. This is decent, actually. The only thing I'd say is the hands need to be bigger, that thumb's really not meaty towards the base or anything, and the legs need to be longer. But I really wanted to work, because this is coming to a point where I'm like, I want to do art full time. I want to do characters, and I wanted to write out what was good, mediocre, and bad, and make everything good, look at things that I was bad at, make better, that kind of a thing, and how I'd fix it, how I was just trying to motivate myself, and it helps me when I break things down like this. I don't do this so much anymore. I go back and forth, and I have a way of improving still, but it's not like this. This was a sketch for a piece idea I had. I was going to borrow some Copic markers from a friend of mine at the time and never got the chance to. This would have been, still in my head, it would have been a really cool piece, and maybe I'll come back to it, but I was a really big fan of Mortal Kombat at the time. This was a friend I had drawn at the time. Her name's Katie, I believe. I was 17 or 18 at this point. So you can tell this was a year or two after I was done. And again, really good at copying things I saw, because I was really used to realism. But still, and I'm getting better at it, making my own stuff. I honestly don't really get good at that until a couple of years ago in my life, just because I really dedicated myself to drawing every day. And we'll get to those sketchbooks eventually. This was her again, but I just wanted to make her into an anime character. Again, not the best. But this is so much better than what I was trying to do, especially in my last sketchbook with characters. I wasn't trying to force a style out or anything like that. And this is kind of what I had settled on. Still really big head, needs to be bigger body kind of a thing, but this is what it was. Practicing female anatomy, which isn't something I had really done at this point, because I realized, I guess, after drawing a girl, I was like, dang, I don't really know how to draw girls. I kind of only draw guys. Or faces of girls. And then also doing male form at the same time. I believe this was based off of a video that I was looking after. I don't remember whose video. I know it wasn't Mark Crilly. And then this was someone I was talking to at the time. I believe her name, actually we'll leave name out. I think, well, Destiny. But, I mean, you won't find her or anything. It'll be fine. But I was using a variety of pens here as opposed to the last pen drawing I did. And this, I still really like this. And I even have a senior photo of me holding this drawing. and then Razod Elock. So at the time, or actually a couple years before this probably, I had been drawing, or not drawing, I had been writing a book, and this was the main villain of it. And I do write, but that book I completely discarded. I do have a book idea that I am a few chapters into that I'd like to get back to, but I haven't been able to work on in a couple of years, but just because art and my career with art kind of takes priority. Alright, more Mark Crilley drawings. This one was because I had a friend an art friend whose mom drew like a really weird creature, and it was around the time that the trend don't and do, with don't being the really nice looking one and do being the really awful looking one. It was a big art meme for a while, at least on Instagram. I don't know if it was elsewhere, but I made a version of it as well, and this was my version of it. And this is actually pretty creative and has some depth and stuff to it. I know it took me way longer than what it would today, but I mean, that means I've improved, so that's a good thing. Back to Razod. This was actually fairly decent. I have a lot better sense of bone structure, but not really muscle structure, and you can tell my hair's better, at least. My faces are better. Still working on other stuff, obviously, but overall pretty cool. And then I like how I did his name. Still felt the need to name stuff sometimes. Different expressions. This is still Mark Crilley's book. Going through, this is crap, I can't remember his name. This is some guy's book. I don't remember his name. Really, really good teacher for art. Christopher Hart, that's his name. Christopher Hart, that rhymes with Mark. And this is my own stuff that I've started doing. And again, I don't get why I was doing this for so long. But this was my own stuff at this point, and honestly, I can see how this turned into kind of the way that I draw now. This looks very similar. Very similar. Although I wish I did more, and I'm coming back around to doing more expressions, but a lot of my characters have a very solemn look on them. More Christopher Hart stuff, minus this at the bottom. I don't know why I said it's a decent character. This is a character. Probably why I skipped the rest of the page and don't have anything on it is because I'm tired of looking at it. Then I took... I don't think that was me drawing that. There's no way that was me. That does not look like something I would do. Not saying it's bad. I've shown you a ton of bad stuff. I'll admit when I did something that was bad, but that doesn't look like something I did. Then I had taken this book with us to a conference we had gone to where it was like a Christian conference, so they had musicians, speakers, and everything, and then there's just a lot of people sitting in this big room, so I drew a lot of people while I was sitting there, and I started doing more and more life drawing, and you can tell my form has gotten so much better from when I started, and sense of perspective and everything, and how like the ear even pops out and everything. More drawings from same trip, just drawing other people. Not always doing it well, and a lot of times from a distance, but still trying to. And I know some of these are not other people, but most of them were from other people. This was just some pictures I'd found online. I don't know why I decided to do them, I just did. This is something I came up with. And then trying out some new art supplies. This was honestly a really mean depiction of a manager of mine that I had when I was working at Chick-fil-A. Because he was very mean to me and just very incompetent figure. So my One of my friends was playing Dark Souls at the time, and he made a character based off of him, and he made it look like this. And admittedly, very mean, but we hated him at the time. I still don't have fond memories of him or anything, but I know he was trying his best probably. And then that was me. I feel like that's pretty obviously me. I mean, some things are a little off, but that was me. And then this was a portrait of someone I was dating at the time. And that is it for this book. I know this was a few minutes longer than what the last video was, but thank you so much for watching. And I'll keep on doing these because I have them, and these are kind of fun to do and kind of fun for me to look through and look back at the past. And I hope you guys enjoy looking at them and seeing the improvement and seeing that you can do it too. If I once was drawing like that and draw the way I do now, then you guys can too. And every artist has a story like this. But thank you guys for watching.